channel. Today I wanted to tell you guys all about my birth story. I realized that I had introduced Selena to you without telling you a lot about the day she was born and the events that led up to that day. So I thought I'd tell you about our C-section and the plans that I had going into childbirth and what really happened. So because I wanted to do everything so natural, Nathan and I decided that we would take a hypnobirthing class. I wanted to do no epidural, no Pitocin. I wanted just to do a childbirth natural, go into the birthing tub if necessary, just as pain management. I wouldn't actually be able to have her in there, but that would just help with contraction pains. So I knew that the nurse that did the hypnobirthing class worked at the hospital, so I was hoping that she would be my nurse that day. So we took a class with her on a Saturday. That was November 22nd, 2014, and it was an 8-hour class. We learned all about different techniques, breathing and meditation, all ways to allow the contractions to happen instead of fighting them, so that you're dealing with the contraction and not experiencing the pain, and you can basically trick your body and really embrace, the childbirth, and knowing that with each contraction the baby is coming and it's helping you and it's bringing you closer to your baby. So we took that class, and then the next couple of days we just went back to life as normal. I went back to school, Nathan went back to work, and on Wednesday the 25th of November I was at school and I was joking with some friends, and I was like, I'm not going to finish out this week. I'm going to go into labor before Thanksgiving. And I wasn't really taking it serious. I was just kind of joking. But around 2 o'clock that day I left school and I went home, and I went to pick Nathan up from work at 3, and I started really having a stomach ache, so I figured maybe I just hadn't drank enough water that day. So I got 2 1-liter bottles of Poland Spring. I drank the first one in like under 30 minutes, and that wasn't really doing anything. So I told Nathan, like, something's not right. I don't know if this is Braxton Hicks or if I'm really in labor. And he's like, call the doctor, call the doctor. So I called the midwife, and she said that, it could just be Braxton Hicks, or take a shower, walk around. So that's what I decided to do, but it wasn't helping. So I told him to get some sleep that night, and that we'd probably have to go to the hospital in the morning, that I would call my midwife again. So he slept okay that night. I wasn't feeling well all night. I was having contractions. They were 10 to 12 minutes apart. And I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and there was a little bit of blood, so I knew that the baby was coming. In the morning, I called my midwife. Nathan went to work around 6 a.m. and she said, "You poor thing, you probably haven't slept at all," which was so true. It's impossible to sleep through contractions. And I was trying to remember everything that we learned in our hypnobirthing class, not to fight the contraction. And the more I tried to fight it, the more it hurt. If I would just close my eyes and breathe and just think to open up my body and allow the contraction to happen, it really, really helped. So she said, "Why don't you come in, we'll check you." And I don't think she was really taking it as serious as it was. So I didn't think that I was going to be really dilated at all. I'm like, oh, I'm going to look like such a big wuss. I've heard all these stories about these women going in and they're not even in labor. So he came back from work. We drove to the hospital. He was so nervous and excited, and I hadn't even had my hospital bag packed, or he didn't have a bag packed either. I hadn't even picked out a pediatrician for Selena, so we were really sort of unprepared. She wasn't due until December 15th, and this was only November 25th, so we didn't think that she was coming. So we got to the hospital, they hooked me up to some monitors, and they had the monitor around my belly to monitor Selena's heartbeat. And the midwife came in a few times, and she said that baby's heart rate was dropping, so I would change positions, and it wasn't really getting any better. So Nathan went downstairs to get some food, and the doctor came in with the midwife, and I could tell that something was serious. They both had a pretty serious look on their face, and she said, "I think we need to get that baby out." So this was after my water had been broke, and they had checked me and told me that I was 4 centimeters, and things just weren't progressing the way they wanted, so they said, we need to get that baby out. And Nathan walked in the door at this time as they were talking to me, and he had his food in his hand, and he just went white because he could tell how serious things were. And I said, I need to have a C-section, and he said, right now? And I said, yes, I'm signing the forms. So he was getting dressed in his white suit and his little hat and hospital booties, and they said that they were going to wheel me down and prepare me, and then he would come in shortly after. So we went right into the operating room, and it was so cold in there, and I remember the blue tile on the wall. It was just very institutional looking. So I'm sitting on the edge of the hospital bed, and I'm right in the middle of a contraction, and the doctor is sticking the spinal medication in to numb my legs. So they're telling me, you know, just keep really, really still, don't move. And I feel my legs start to go numb, and then everything starts happening really fast. They swing my legs up, and I'm laying there, and as he's strapping my arms down to the table, and I remember thinking in my head, if there's a fire in this hospital right now, how am I going to get out and walk away? It was like I was having just the most random thoughts. So I think it was just because I was so nervous, and my blood pressure was really, really high, and they kept saying that they were going to have to give me magnesium to bring it down, because the top number was 200, and I can't remember what the bottom number was, but they were really concerned with how high my blood pressure was getting. So they said that once they gave me the medicine, that should take it down. And Nathan then comes in the door, and I'm holding his hand, and the anesthesiologist is standing over me, and he's like, wow, you're really, really calm. Is this your first C-section? And I'm like, I am just so terrified. I don't know how to vocalize it right now, so I'm not saying anything at all. So I'm holding Nathan's hand, and I was under the impression, maybe too many movies, but I thought that I would be super out of it, and I would be in La La Land and wouldn't know what was going on, but I knew everything that was going on. And the next thing, they say they're gonna get ready, they're starting the procedure, and I see the splatter of blood come across the sheet that they had put up, and I just turned to Nathan, and I'm like, you need to tell me right now that everything is gonna be okay. And he's like, it's okay, babe, it's okay. And he peeks around the corner, and I'm like, stop looking. And he comes back around the corner of the screen. And just because I knew what was going on, because I had seen videos of C-sections, I didn't want to know what he was looking at, because I didn't want him to get freaked out and pass out. So he's just holding my hand, and after, you know, a minute or two, we hear like this gurgled cry, and they take Selena over to the warming table, and I hear them talking about how little she is. They're like, yeah, she's so small, and they're weighing her, and the pediatricians, and they're checking her. So I knew that something was off, because they had told me if everything was fine, they would take her out and put her right on my chest. So they were checking her over there. Nathan gets up, and he goes over there, and he cuts her umbilical cord, and they wrapped her up in this little blanket, and he was holding her, and he brought her over to me so I could kiss her and love on her a little bit. And they said that they needed to take her to the NICU to continue to check her, so because she was so little. So they took her away, and they finished stitching me up and delivering the placenta and all that. And they said that they were going to send the placenta off to be studied, which I think is, you know, pretty typical. And without knowing it initially, I didn't know that I had severe preeclampsia. We didn't know until the day I walked into the hospital. So Selena wasn't getting the nutrients from the placenta that she needed. So, and I think that was another reason why they wanted to study the placenta. So they put me into the recovery room for a couple hours, and Nathan was with the baby. He was taking videos of her so I could see her, and he would come into the recovery room and see me where my mom and my brother was. Everyone was with me, and then they would kind of bounce back and forth. And I was really tired and exhausted at this point from the magnesium. I couldn't even lift my head up out of the bed, so I wasn't able to see Selena after I kissed her when she was first born. I wasn't able to see her until the next day, because I couldn't go down to the NICU where she was, and they were so concerned with her weight that she needed to have a feeding tube. So she had a feeding tube and IVs constantly, because her blood sugar was getting really low, and they were trying to keep that at normal levels. So they kept her in this little warmer, and she was so skinny, you could see all of her bones. She was 4 pounds 3 ounces, and she was just a tiny little bug. So the next day I finally got to go down and see her, and I was afraid to hold her. I could just hold her in my hands. She was so little, and I was afraid to change her diapers. She had ultra preemie size diapers, which are even smaller than the preemie size. You can't buy them in any store that I've seen. And so they told me that she was gonna have to stay there for the next 2 weeks, and it was so heartbreaking because, you know, you're just so helpless. You see your baby, and you know that they're going to be okay, but just seeing the feeding tube in her nose, and then she ripped it out overnight one night, and they don't understand what's going on. They just want mommy, and I would be in there with her as often as I could because the hospital was so gracious, and they said that we could stay in a room as long as it wasn't crowded in the hospital, and as long as they didn't get full, that we could stay there for free. And they gave us meals still. They were so good to us. And we were able to go down and feed her whenever we wanted to. And it was a really, really long 2.5 weeks. So everything that I had planned to breastfeed her and to have our birth go naturally, the opposite happened. But I did get a healthy baby out of it. She was just little. She was just a really low birth weight because of my preeclampsia, which could have been different if they had checked me for that, but I didn't have any of the typical symptoms of preeclampsia. The only symptom, looking back, I really had was swelling. I didn't have any spotted vision. I wasn't passing out at all. So that was a real surprise to us, but we were able to bring her home once she reached 5 pounds. They let us take her home, so about 2.5 weeks later, and she was so little. We had her sleep in her pack and play just because she looked too little in the crib, but over the next couple months she really started to gain weight, and now she's a happy, healthy chubbo, and she loves to eat everything. She's eating carrots and sweet potatoes, and just because our birth plan didn't go according to plan, we still got our beautiful baby girl, and I wish that we could have done it natural, and I hope that with our next pregnancy we're able to do it, but it was the best thing for Selena for us to get her out as quick as we did. And I don't know what could have happened if we had tried to deliver her vaginally. I don't know if she would have passed away or what, but I'm glad that everything ended up working out and that she's our happy little girl now, and we couldn't ask for anything more. So I'm grateful to the hospital and to my doctors, and that's our crazy birth story. I hope I didn't leave anything out. I think I got everything in there, but it just goes to show you that life happens whether you plan for it or not. So just embrace it and just know that everything will work out as it should. So I hope you guys like this video, and I hope you like learning about the day that Selena came, which was the best day, scariest day, and happiest day of our life, and we're really grateful to have her. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.